everyone, my name is Lisa and I just finished high school in Germany, and the title of my charge today is Joy Level. Are you depressed or impressed? So what does it actually mean to be depressed? It means to be weighed down, like pushed down, being low in spirits. And what does it mean to be impressed? To be lifted up, like to be positively impacted by something. And I believe the reason why we're depressed in our lives is because we're not being impressed by the right things. In Psalms 94, verse 19, it says, "When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy." In the past, I used to struggle with feeling depressed. Like I was very sad for long times. I even had a saying that for every minute that I'm happy right now, I will be unhappy for 2 minutes. So it felt like I could never just be happy. I always needed to be sad right after, because that's what I experienced. Like, I'm not exaggerating. So there were many things in my life back then that caused me to be sad and like not happy, but also didn't make an effort to look for joy. I didn't go searching for it. So my point for you today is, don't refuse to rejoice. I would like to ask you to take a moment to reflect on how your joy level is right now, like from a scale from 1 to 10. And don't get me wrong, joy is not the same thing as happiness. Happiness depends on how our circumstances are. How's my life going? What grades do I have? Just am I free of troubles, But happiness is usually very short-lived. Like, it comes in the moment and it's gone again. It comes in the moment. It's like an up and down, But the joy that I'm talking about is more like an inner sense of peace. It's like more stable. It's like a general attitude in a way. And it endures any circumstances that come our way. Like, that joy stays. And happiness oftentimes is just a distraction from how depressed we actually are. Like, people turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, like they play video games all night long, like whatever people use to numb out from how depressed they are. And it's just really happiness gone. So these things may make them happy, but they don't bring joy. So now, knowing this, how is your joy level? Or in the words of my title, are you depressed or impressed? But what produces joy in us? Having good grades, finishing our assignments on time, having a nice time with friends? Not really, not really. I used to try to find my joy in my academical performance, like getting excellent grades, really always comparing my results with my classmates, okay, who got the most points and whatever. But yeah, I would feel happy when I got a good grade, but then I would just throw myself into work for the next exam so that I could be happy again for a little bit. And really pursuing this happiness in that way isolated me from my friends. It felt like I was running a race and I could never come to the finish line. And it stopped me from actually looking for joy. Like, I numbed out with this form of happiness that I didn't even know that there was something better that I could have. So these sources of short-term happiness can deceive us and actually steal our joy. So performances or circumstances or relationships, those things can't give us joy. So what can give us that then? As I shared earlier, I used to be very sad a few years ago. But the scripture that I shared in the beginning says, "When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy." And this is exactly what I experienced in my life. Like, through God, I found joy, and it has helped me in my life all around, not just in school or anything. Because now, like, the pressure is off, I don't rely on my school, on my grades. I don't rely on my friends to bring me that joy, because I have found it in God. And yeah, back then when I was so sad, like, I didn't make an effort to be joyful. And like, how I mean is that because I personally believe, like, it's a choice to look at all the negative things in your life, or it's a choice to look at the things that are actually good, So we can ignore the good things, and that will just make us more depressed. And I have like a little insight. Even the early Christians regarded the lack of joy as a willful refusal to enjoy the goodness of God. It's a willful refusal. So when we focus on all the amazing things that we have in our lives, like housing, freedom of speech, being able to get education, having friends, having food, those things can really make us grateful towards God when we really acknowledge them as like good things in our life and not just take them for granted. It's really amazing to remember that, like, that brings us joy, like just seeing what God has given us. And I think a lot of the reason why we're depressed is because we're just too entitled. We have so high expectations, like, and we expect God to be like a babysitter doing everything for us, and we don't want to do anything for God, you know? So let's let God's goodness and grace and love and mercy really impress us instead of being depressed. And my practical challenge is something that I did back then as well for over a year. I had a gratitude journal. So every morning when I woke up, I would write down at least 3 things from the day before that I was just grateful to God for. And that just really helped me to really focus on the things in my life that God gave me and that brought me joy.